What's going on YouTube? This is SG1 Sports and you're watching our SEC channel. We're going to give you a projected record for 2024 for the Kentucky Wildcats here in this video. Before we get to the 2024 projection, let's look back at some of the projections from 2023. Here were some of the projections from last season. Kentucky, of course, going 7-5. They were projected to go 8-4. I predicted them to go 8-4. And Athlon Sports predicted them to go 8-4. The over-under was only 6.5, so that was a really easy over. This team, again, expected to maybe be 8-4. They did go 7-5, but still that 7-5 was over the 6.5. So Vegas was not high on Kentucky last year, and they did wind up a little bit under, again, what we predicted them to do, but still 7-5 right there, close to the 8-4. Again, this is the schedule, and this is the scale that we'll use for the projection. If it's less than 20 or over 80, those are pretty much guaranteed wins or losses. 20-29, 71-80, those are games where I think the spread's going to be double digits. A game where a team should win. Of course, upsets in this category do sometimes happen, but they should win. 30-39, 61-70. Those are games where I think the spread's going to be closer to a touchdown. Games where there's definitely going to be a favorite, but that favorite is could definitely lose, and they'll lose a lot of these types of games. And then your 50-50 games will stay in the white. Those are in the 40 to 60% range. Games where I think the spread will be 5 points or less, and games that really could go either way. So for Kentucky, the good news is, once again, they'll have 3 easy wins: Southern Miss, Ohio, and Murray State. And again, that's just kind of how they do their schedule. They play 3 easy opponents, and then they'll play Louisville in the non-conference, and that's just what it is every single year for Kentucky. I can't remember the last time they played a quality non-conference game outside of that game against Louisville. So you've got the 3 easy wins, and then we'll go to games where I think they're going to be favored by probably double digits. That's Vanderbilt. They are clearly better than Vanderbilt, plus they get that game at home. You put all that together, and yeah, Kentucky should be favored by 14 to 16 points in that game. And then we'll go to other games where I think they'll be favored. I think that's South Carolina. I think they'll be favored by about a touchdown. I do have Kentucky in a tier just ahead of South Carolina, plus the home field advantage. That's enough to make this one in the purple here. And again, I think Kentucky should be favored by about a touchdown against the Gamecocks. All right, so those are the games they'll be favored in, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 games where they should clearly be favorites. I mean, 7 games where they could be underdogs, or these could be, again, games that could go either way. We will start with the games that I think there'll be a slight underdog. That's Georgia and Tennessee. Now, this Georgia one's a little bit tricky. I think this probably should really be in the orange, but again, just using the scale and the formula, because the game's at home, Kentucky has just enough to they're 2 tiers below Georgia, but the home field advantage puts them kind of just 1 tier behind Georgia in this specific game, and that's why this game winds up in the yellow. Hopefully that makes sense. But anyways, I personally think Georgia should be able to handle this one fairly easily, but again, the formula that we use, this game does wind up in the yellow. And I can go ahead and tell you, if it was in the orange, it would not change the projection at the end. So keep that in mind. But Tennessee, that'll be a tough one for Kentucky. It's on the road. I think they will definitely be an underdog in that one. And that one possibly might even be in the orange as well. It just depends on how good Tennessee turns out to be, because that's a tough place to play. And I think Tennessee will definitely be better than Kentucky. But with our formula, again, that one does come out in the yellow. Ole Miss and Texas, those games come out to be games here in the orange. I've got Ole Miss and Texas kind of in that top tier along with Georgia, but these games are on the road, and that's the difference between these 2 games in Georgia. Even though, personally, I think Kentucky probably has a better shot of beating Ole Miss than they do beating Georgia, but that's why these are not predictions. This is just a formula that we put out there, and we get the projection. I'll do my predictions later, and who knows, maybe I'll pick them to upset Ole Miss, but I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I'm not going to pick them to beat Georgia. And again, I feel much more confident that Georgia will beat Kentucky than I do Ole Miss. Anyways, that'll leave 3 games: Florida, Auburn, Louisville. These are your 50-50 games. Louisville doesn't feel like a 50-50 game, especially playing at home for Kentucky, but these teams are in similar tiers. And again, Kentucky's kind of owned this series as of late, but it's one that Louisville, just comparing the teams, has a real shot to win. Louisville, I think, might actually be the better team. It's close, but home field advantage for Kentucky. I think they will be favored by at least a field goal in this one. Auburn is a tough one. I think Kentucky probably favored there just because it's at home. And then Florida, that one I don't know. I think Kentucky probably a little bit better than Florida, but that's a tough place to play. Probably the home field advantage does swing that to Florida, and I'd say they'll be favored by 2 or 3 points, but not by much. So those are your 3 50-50 games. If they lose to Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Texas, and you lose all 3 of these, yeah, that's not good. That's not going to be a bowl game. But if you win all 3, you're 8-4, have a pretty good season. If you win 2 of them, you know, you're back to 7-5. You only win 1, you still get to a bowl game. So you feel good about Kentucky at least getting to a bowl game. But when we average everything out, the projection does come out to 7-5. So a 7-5 projected record for Kentucky, just the same record as last year. Projection a little bit lower than last year with a tougher conference schedule. And again, you add in Ole Miss, you add in Texas. This is a pretty tough conference schedule, even though the non-conference schedule not bad. But again, 7-5, that's the projection for Kentucky in 2024. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Give me your thoughts, your projections on this team down in the comments below.